Rick, is this being broadcast on the YouTube channel? Or no? It is, okay. It is, okay. And it will be on 34 as well? I thought it wasn't going to. And it will be on 34 as well?
We're going to. And Tommy, you need to start the recording too.
Okay.
So we record it as well on WebEx. Do you see the button for that?
Yeah. When should I start it now?
Yeah, I would start it now.
Okay. Should I start it now? Started.
Okay.
Okay. Started. And I'll do the open public meetings.
Right.
I'll do the open public.
Rick, just let us know when you have it going on TV 34. Okay.
We're live. All right. This is a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for January 12th, 2022. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and sending a copy to the Montclair Times, Star Ledger, and Herald News. This is a virtual public hearing. A link for members of the public to join is included in the agenda, which is available on the Montclair website, as is a link to the township's YouTube channel where the hearing can be viewed live or thereafter. This hearing is also being televised on channel 34.
Want to do the roll call?
Sorry, do I do the roll call?
Yeah, you do the roll call.
Okay, sorry about that. Mr. Church?
Here.
Sorry about that. Mr. McCulloch?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Present.
Mr. Simon? Mr. Harrison?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Caulfield?
Here.
Mr. Vieira?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
And that concludes roll.
Mr. Sullivan, you want to?
Okay, next order of business is to elect a chairman of the Montclair Zoning Board for the 2022 session. Do we have any nominations?
Mike, this is Jay Church. I nominate Bill Harrison.
Okay, are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none, Mr. Church, is that a motion to elect Mr. Harrison as chair?
That's correct.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
I second.
Okay, I think we could do all in favor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board, for your continued confidence. We now need to elect a vice chair. I'd like to suggest, since Mr. Fleischer has resigned from the board, that Mr. McCulloch serve as vice chair. But does anyone have any nominations or would like to nominate Mr. McCulloch?
I
nominate Mr. McCulloch as vice chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Would someone like to move the approval of Mr. McCulloch as vice chair?
I would move that approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. McCulloch, and I will try to minimize my absences. Unless you want me to be absent, and I'll be glad to be absent. Okay, first we have the minutes of the December 8th meeting. I have several changes.
No, what about the secretary and assistant secretary?
Yes, okay. So with Janice will be secretary and Tommy will be assistant secretary.
Fine.
Okay, someone want to make that motion, assuming no one wants to volunteer to be secretary and run the meetings?
So moved by the chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations on getting the really fun part of the meeting. Okay, so we have the minutes of the December 8th meeting. As I said, I have several changes on page 4. Line 34, towards the end, it said from the neighbors, then where they parked, insert the word where. Tommy, do you see where?
Yes.
And on page 5, line 29, it should be from, not form.
Got it.
On page 6, and this is, I'm going to do this a million times on the 2 minutes. Line 19, where it says the board testified, it should say the board stated, since we don't testify as such.
Okay.
And on line 36, delete the word fully at the end of the line.
Okay.
And on page 7, line 21, it should say they observed that the roots of the mature tree,
Okay.
and then put could before the word die on line 22. And on line 24, make below ground into 2 words.
Okay.
And then, just because I actually care more about this, the nature of the procedure, on line 15, put, and I prefer Esquire to have a capital E, but after Esquire, put Mr. McMahon presented the appeal on behalf of the applicant, and then say on line 17, say he stated rather than he testified. And on line 22, make replace replaced. And on line 32, replace testified with stated. And in 6 places on page 9, line 19, 22, 25, 28, and 31, replace testified with stated. And then on line 34, replace testified with argued. And on page 10, line 7, where it says Ms. Handel, put of SCE because she doesn't otherwise, no, okay, skip that. She's identified earlier, right? That's okay. Then on line 26, change testified to stated. And on line 29, replace testified with remarked on. Replace testified to with remarked on. And then at the end of line 34, replace, add at the end of the line, necessary information required by the ordinance. And then most significantly on page 11, I did vote no.
I was going to say that.
Unless I really missed something. Anyone else with any changes to?
Yeah, Bill, on the first page, Tommy, I think after the roll call, it should indicate that I was also present at the meeting. And if you were present at that meeting also, you should indicate that.
Anyone else with any further changes to the minutes of the December 8th meeting? Okay, someone want to move approval of those minutes as amended?
I so move the minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we have the minutes of the December 15th meeting. Just a few changes on that. On page 2, line 7 and line 27, capitalize Esquire, the E in Esquire, and on line 11, capitalize the B in board. On page 4, again, capitalize Esquire on the E in Esquire on line 13. Page 6. Line 30, both capitalize the E in Esquire, and then that should be presented rather than testified. And anyone else with any other changes to?
Yeah, Tommy, same issue on page 1. It should just indicate that I was present at the meeting.
And we have bunches of resolutions.
Did
The
we,
resolution.
did we do a motion on that, Bill?
Oh, you want them approved too?
Yeah.
Okay. Does someone want to move the minutes as amended?
Move approval of the minutes as amended by the chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain. I abstain.
And abstentions. Okay, now we'll try resolutions. We have the resolution for 17 Watchung Plaza. I don't have any changes to that resolution. Does anyone else have any changes? Would someone want to move that resolution?
Move approval.
Can I vote on that resolution? Yes. I wasn't at the 15th meeting.
No, it's. So it's.
If you weren't there on the 5th, Tommy, do you have who's eligible to vote on this?
Yeah,
It's Mr. McCulloch, myself, and Mr. Caulfield. Am I doing that right?
I was present.
Yeah.
Miss Harris was present.
2 times. That meeting was twice, wasn't it?
Well, no, okay, it's so at the December 15th meeting, those voted in favor of the application. Mr. Fleischer's not here. It was Mr. McCulloch, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Caulfield.
Okay. One of you needs to move it and one of you needs to second it.
Mr. Caulfield.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Move it as with the chair. Like, when I say chair, I'm never
Second.
going to put in this position. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
abstain.
Okay, and abstentions.
Abstain.
Abstain.
And then we have the resolution for the property on Wheeler Street. I have just one change on page 2. Number 4 in the findings, it should be in instead of I. That's a little autocorrect problem. So it's 25 feet in width. Any other changes to that resolution? If not, someone want to move approval of that resolution?
Move approval.
Second.
First,
Who was the
all in
second?
favor-
Caulfield.
Okay,
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, and then we have the resolution for the property at 2 Columbus Avenue. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any changes? If not, does someone want to move approval of that resolution?
I move approval of application 2764.
Is there a second?
Second, Caulfield.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain.
And then we have the resolution for the Glennon property on North Fullerton Avenue. I don't have any changes to that resolution. Does anyone else have any changes to that resolution? If not, someone want to move approval?
I make a motion to approve application 2768 at 310 North Fullerton Avenue.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the same abstentions, I assume.
Yes.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Then we have the application Josephson at 28 Marion Road. I have one change, actually a couple changes on page 2. The condition number 1, next to last line, it should be providing at least 3-foot setbacks, and then it should be from and not form. And the second line of that, missing the biggest change, it must be substantially demolished. Any other changes to that resolution? If not, someone want to move approval?
Move approval.
I
Second.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes. Same.
Then we have the application of Roman Oben on Wildwood Avenue. I don't have any changes to that resolution. Does anyone else have any changes? Not, someone want to move approval of that resolution?
I make a motion to approve application 2772 at 183 Westwood Avenue.
Second.
Wildwood.
Is there a
Wildwood.
second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain.
And then we have the appeal of the Meranus matter on Union Street. I don't have any changes to that resolution. Does anyone else have any changes?
Those eligible to vote are McCulloch, Moore, Simon, and Harrison.
I'm there too. Oh, okay.
Okay. One of those people want to move approval of that resolution?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Same.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Same.
Abstain.
And we have the resolution appointing Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Sullivan's firm to be our board attorney. I don't have any changes to that resolution. Does anyone else have any changes? Someone want to move approval of that resolution?
Who's eligible?
The
Everybody?
regular board members.
Yes.
I move the resolution. I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Okay. Glad to have you back.
Thank God.
Okay, Tommy, you want to announce the postponements?
Bill, do we have to appoint the board engineer as well?
You didn't give me a resolution? I know we do.
Did I
should-
not send that? I'm sorry.
It should have been in the packet.
I can pull it up.
Okay, yes, okay. It got flipped on. I didn't get my packet until yesterday, which, and then, okay, so we have the resolution approving the board engineer. We have a new engineer because a variety of people were unhappy with the engineer for both the planning board and the Board of Adjustment. So we had new interviews and recommended Boswell Engineering to serve as our engineer. Anyone have any questions on that or comments? And if not, would someone want to move that resolution?
I would move that resolution for Boswell Engineering.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Now we can do postponements.
Application 2761 for 376, 380 Claremont Avenue, which was carried from the previous meeting, has been carried to the February 9th, 2022 meeting with no
Okay.
additional notice required.
And then we have one other postponement, I understand.
Yes, under new business, application 2775, 51 New Street will be carried to the March 2nd, 2022 meeting with no additional notice required.
Okay, so if there are any members of the public here, either on the application by the Isolde Bedell Family Partners for 376, 380 Claremont Avenue, or the Malzorgata Dolgan application at 51 New Street, they will not be heard tonight. The Claremont Avenue application is February 9th, and the Dolgan application is March 2nd. There will be no further notice. That those meetings will be virtual, as is this, and the township website will have the information as to how to access those meetings. And with that, I need to step down because the next application I am recused from because of I work for the father of a person involved in the application. So we will give Mr. McCulloch an early opportunity to serve as chair. And if someone could text me or something when we're close to resuming, I will see you all then.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harrison. Our first application is number 2766, SAF 475 Bloomfield LLC. The applicant requests the following variances. A variance from Montclair Code Section 347-83.B4 to permit the proposed stairway to be set back 1 foot 6 inches from the rear property line, whereas the ordinance requires a minimum rear yard setback of 10 feet. And B, a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-83.B3 to permit the proposed stairway to be set back 3 feet 10 inches from a side property line, whereas the ordinance requires a minimum side yard setback of 6 feet. Are taxes and fees paid in an order for this application?
Yes, yes, they are.
Thank you. Is Mr. Tremulak with us?
I've made David Genova a panelist,
And also Ellen Trembulak, Tommy.
and Alan Trembulak I'm making a panelist right now. And I'm not sure if there's anybody from Inglesi that needs to be made a panelist. If so, please let me know who.
We'll ask Mr. Tremulak when he's on.
Yes, please.
Oh,
Alex
I'm sorry.
Merlucci from Ingles.
Okay. All right, he's now a panelist as well.
Okay, I think I'm in. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Mr. McCulloch, congratulations on your appointment as vice chair. I think this should be a fairly simple, at least I hope so, I'll start for you. I represent SAF 475 Bloomfield LLC, which is the owner of the former Chase Bank building located at the corner of Bloomfield Avenue and North Fullerton Avenue. This is an application for 2 setback variances in order to construct an exterior staircase in the rear of the former bank building, which, as I'm sure you all know, has been vacant for some time. I think probably about 5 years or so since the branch was closed and Chase relocated across the street on North Fullerton. The building is in the process of being converted to a mixed-use commercial building with office uses and other commercial uses permitted in the C1 business district. And as part of the building conversion, in order to comply with building codes, the building must have a secondary means of egress. And in order to comply with that code requirement, the applicant is proposing to construct an exterior staircase, which would be tucked in the rear of the building, totally out of the view of any other property. It would only be visible from the municipal parking deck located to the rear of this property. And as the notice indicates, we need some minor variances from setback requirements, both for side yard and rear yard. This application was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission, which issued a report stating that the commission had no comment. We also, I think the board also has the planning report prepared by Janice Talley. And the only comment in that report is that the proposed stairway is not visible from North Fullerton Avenue and is only visible when inside the Fullerton parking deck. So it's a straightforward application. I'm going to present testimony from David Genova, and we also have present the project architect, Alexander Malucci. We're not quite sure his testimony is going to be even necessary, but he's here to provide any testimony or to answer any questions the board might have. So having said that, I would call David Genova as my first.
Mr. Genova, can you turn your camera on?
Sure.
Okay, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
David Genova, Greenwood Development, SAF 475 Bloomfield LLC. My address is 131 Glenridge Avenue in Montclair, New Jersey.
All right. David, what is the nature of your involvement with this property or your relationship to the property owner?
I'm one of the applicants of this. I'm a member of SAF 475.
Okay, you're a member of the LLC. Great. And the building is currently undergoing renovations and being converted to a mixed-use commercial building. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's 2 buildings
Right.
by address, 1 tax lot. There's 475 Bloomfield Avenue, which is what most people would associate the old Chase Bank branch. And then there's 483 Bloomfield Avenue, which has been private banking offices for a number of the different banks, including at the end, JP Morgan Chase. Both of these buildings are currently in renovation into new mixed-use office and retail buildings.
Okay. And have you been involved in the preparation of the plans for the building renovations?
I have.
Okay, you're familiar with the site plan as well as the plans for the interior renovations of the buildings?
I am.
Okay, so we're here tonight because of the proposed staircase and that's being proposed for the rear of the property. Do you want to discuss that and give the board some background and
Sure.
what led to the decision to locate this staircase
Sure.
in the proposed location?
So this building was acquired from JP Morgan Chase in 2018. They had vacated, they had to move to the other space before they were willing to dispose of this building. So it's been vacant, as Alan mentioned, for about 5 years. It was about 2 years prior to that. We've looked at a number of different iterations of this building. It's a challenging building, these big old bank buildings that have, big vaulted entries and double height ceilings and ornate detail. This building presented a number of specific challenges. The first was how to program the building in an era where there are likely not large banks that want to use this space for their retail operations. The building has, if anybody's ever been in it, it's a full height building for most of the retail banking. And then there were these U-shaped offices kind of surrounding the building on the second and third floor. So how do we use those offices when they're not maybe integrated into a banking operation? These were the challenges that we looked at originally with this building. We considered following Bob Silver's model that he did up the street at 491 and coming before it would have likely been this board for relief to, infill those floors and create more traditional floor plates. In the end, we felt that really didn't do service to the beauty of the entryway of the bank and the main banking level on the retail. And we decided to focus on trying to find a retailer that would take that space in its glory and really utilize that space. And we've entertained a number of retailers over the past couple of years and eventually decided to start the renovation on the rest of the building to eventually accommodate what that retailer would be. The pandemic threw us obviously for a loop in signing some retail tenants, and that helped push the decision to go ahead with the core and shell of this building and create 2 or 3 specific spaces, a retail space and then a specific and separate office use on the second and third floor. I was in front of the Historic Preservation Commission in 2020, late 2020, and to ask for some facade modifications to this building to help achieve that goal. So we are going to be installing a new door system on North Fullerton with an entry lobby that will take you up to the second and third floors so you can get to that office level without having to go through the bank. We're replacing the windows, doing some facade renovations, restoration, and adding a new elevator core, new bathrooms in this building, and really kind of creating a vanilla box for someone to take that retail space eventually by focusing on the rest of the building. When we came in front of the Historic Preservation Commission, they approved our plans and gave us a certificate of appropriateness to effectuate those changes. And that started the process on leasing the space, occupying the space, and doing the inevitable construction drawings on the space. In that process, in the construction drawing process, it became clear that because of the U-shape of the second and third floors, and because they dead end, that there are some areas of the second and third floor of this building that are simply too far away from any of the existing interior stairs or the new stair corridor that we plan to build. And by code, we simply have to find another way for these people to get out of the building. We explored trying to keep that stair internal to the building, but we had taken up most of the space that we could with the existing stair that we had to put in to get up there. And any location that we found that was in the right, had the right logistics for getting out and being able to be utilized as a second means of egress would have been in some of the more decorative parts of the building where there's plaster ceilings, there's these beautiful skylights. And we just thought with the code requirements of what that stair would have had to look like inside, fire rated, masonry built, that it would have been really disruptive to the architecture of the inside of the building in any location we could find it. We also found that these floor slab depths are monumentally thick, these concrete floors, and the actual construction of trying to dismantle it and create a 3-story shaftway within the building was going to be much more disturbing to the beautiful architecture that's inside the building. So this was our creative solution. We felt this was the least disruptive solution to the building's architecture, to any visibility from public right-of-ways, albeit it is visible from the inside of the parking garage. This was an ability to solve a problem in a architecturally sensitive, but yet code compliant manner, and we thought it was the least disruptive way to solve that problem. It did create a couple of variances, as Alan mentioned. They are side and rear yard setbacks to the property line. It does not, if you're physically there, I don't know that you'd be as aware of those setbacks, because our property does jog in there. So this isn't going on any public right of way. It's not planned to disrupt the parking nature of the rear at all. This sits on our property in an area that most of the buildings on this run are utilizing as their second means of egress. So we thought this was a good and sensitive solution to kind of a challenging problem for us.
All right, and the site plan that's on the screen now, David, shows the stairway. And just so it's clear, the stairway is behind the smaller building that's on your property, the building that has the address of 483 Bloomfield, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
It projects off of the side of 475 into the rear of 483.
Okay. Tommy, I wonder, just to get an even better idea of the location, could you pull up Janice's planning report, and particularly figure 4? Okay, yeah, that's it. If you can, all right. David, is this the area where the staircase will be located?
It is.
Okay, and specifically, am I correct in that the staircase will be located between the parking deck and the rear of the building at 483 that you can see in this photo with the 3 windows?
That's correct. There is a pad, an existing masonry pad on the back that historically was used for garbage removal, and some HVAC equipment. And so that staircase would replace those 2 things in that location.
Okay. And will this be an open staircase or enclosed?
An open staircase.
Okay, and I assume it'd be a metal frame, metal material of some kind?
Correct.
Okay. Will the location of this stairway have any impact on the ability to utilize any exit or entrance doors to the rear of the building at 483, if there even are any?
There's a fire escape on the rear of 483 that does have access from the floors on 483. This staircase, being that the floor heights were very different in 483 and 475 on a couple of the floors, we were unable to get this staircase to integrate with that fire escape. So it was designed to clear the fire escape in a code compliant manner, so that people where that fire escape is located, it's still fully functional and still allows people from 483 the ability to get out the building.
Okay. And just so it's clear, this staircase would only be used as a secondary means of egress in case people need to evacuate the building in the event of fire or other emergency, correct?
That's correct. It would have a panic bar on the inside and would be permanently locked from the outside.
Okay, it's not going to be utilized as a means of people entering and exiting the building, as a back door, if you will.
No, sir.
Okay. I think that's all I have for Mr. Genova.
All right. Do you think Mr. Minucci should go ahead and if he wants to offer any comments before we turn to the board to see if there are questions?
Yeah.
Alan, it's up to you. I mean, if you want to present his testimony, otherwise you can go to public
Okay.
questions or comments and see where we are.
Well,
I think we can go to public questions and
Yeah, I
comments.
think we
Alan, if that's
we
okay
should
with
go to
you.
the board first.
Feedback, and we can call him if necessary.
Mr. Sullivan, I think we should ask the board members first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so we'll turn to the board
Just,
members
Mr.
first.
McCullough, I was just testing you.
I'm sorry?
I was just testing you.
Okay, all right. I'm counting on you. So we'll turn first to Ms. Harris. Do you have questions that you'd like to ask?
I do. Can you talk a little bit about how both buildings relate to each other? Are you able to access 475 from 463 at all, or are
No,
they
so
completely
the two
separate?
buildings are completely separate. They have at times in their history had non-code compliant openings between them that were created for people to get from one building to the next. They have been completely separated as a result of this. 483 is a singular tenant office building. Someone has rented that whole building and they use that building as their corporate headquarters. And 475 will, when it's complete, be a multi-tenant, both office and retail building.
Okay, and you said that these are on the same tax lot
They are
as one parcel.
one parcel.
Okay. I mean, my only concern, just looking at the site plan, was, you know, if for some reason, you know, the ownership separates for these buildings, you know, will 483 be able to, you know, use their building to the degree that they need to because there is in the way.
If it were ever to happen, it would require a subdivision.
Right.
If we were to subdivide the lot, we believe we can subdivide it in a way that maintains this access for 475 and doesn't detriment 483 in any way. That's not a plan, just so everybody's aware. It's not the plan to do that, but it can be accomplished with the location of where this staircase exists compared to where the fire escape and egress needs are for 483.
Okay. And then, Tommy, can you go to the site plan again, please? Thank you. Just looking at, I want to say let's just call it page south. So the stairs are kind of, they flow out page south along the facade of 483. Is there any reason it couldn't kind of turn so that it ran along the facade of 475? So turn page left
Turn page
that way. Yeah,
the
so that
le-
it ran along.
Yeah, I
Correct.
see what you're saying. If it went in that row, it would be. I don't know that we have the width there. We looked at it. I don't believe we have the width to get down because if you see the dotted line that's underneath, that is our property line there. So the width, we just didn't have the width to turn it. It doesn't fit in our vacant property there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Vieira,
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Church,
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Caulfield,
Thanks, Chair. Do we think about, is there any lighting in that area? Is that a thought?
So there is rear lighting off of the 483 building at every elevation that fire escape hits, and there is surface mounted sconce lighting proposed for outside of the door that's there. There's also there also is a fair amount of kind of ambient lighting from that parking garage that helps the situation. It does have like a lumen flow to that bottom, so it's never really dark. It gets dark in these crevices, and we'll solve that problem.
Got you. Underneath the staircase, is there going to be a solid? Is it going to be? There's not going to be space underneath that stair, is there?
There is space underneath the stair.
Are you going to fence that off, just in, like, for, you know, like, I don't like things to be in that location? Like, is there any thoughts about that?
We had thought about using it for some garbage removal for garbage, actually, for trash. And there is a basement door at 483 that comes out underneath their fire escape that they will need to be able to get through that space. We did think about the clearance of that, and it is clear for that to occur, but we wouldn't be blocking it off.
Okay. And the entrance of this would be where that fire escape is on that building? Is that where I guess the fire escape is on 475? Is that correct? There's a fire escape there? Is that on that building?
No, sorry. The fire escape is on 483. It's on the rear of 483 in the little cut-in, if you're looking at the site plan. This is a newly constructed stair off of newly constructed doors to exit the space to get down. So there is no, we're not replacing a fire escape with this.
Okay.
This is a new construction solution to what was not a code compliant, pre-existing condition.
Okay, thanks, David.
Sure.
Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Chair McCullough. Have you thought of any additional drainage for this area?
I don't, drainage related to what?
Well, when we think about, climate change and I think, was it Hurricane Ida had that location pretty flooded. Was your area impacted by that?
It was, both of these buildings did have water, yeah.
Right. So just kind of thinking into the future, I know at some point in time, we're certainly going to need to start updating our drainage system. And since these two locations are looking to be merged, there'll be more traffic and, going through one entrance. So just something to think about for safety.
I'm not sure what's being merged. These buildings are already.
Well, okay. So nothing in the plans for additional drainage though.
No, the buildings are lot line to lot line. So we can only drain into the sanitary system. I'm sorry, the storm system in town. This is integrated into that storm system. The only thing to do would be to increase the capacity of that storm system.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Mike Sullivan. Let me just remind the board, there is not a site plan application before us. It's simply for approval of this exterior staircase that requires 2 setback variances.
I have no question. No more questions.
All right, thank you. I don't have any questions other than those that have already been addressed.
Okay.
Tommy, if there are members of the public, we'll turn to see if there are questions or comments.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna unmute everybody. All right, I've gone ahead and I've unmuted everybody that's on the attendees list. So I will leave that unmuted for the next little while to see if anybody has any comments.
So if any member of the public has any question or comment, now is the time on this application. All right, hearing none, I think we can move towards final comments from the members of the board. We'll go back to Ms. Harris. Your thoughts on this? Oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, Mr. Tremblay?
I'll be very brief, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
thank
I think the variances can be justified either under C1 or C2 criteria. C1 because of the existing building, which is there, occupies, well, the 2 buildings occupy almost the entire site, creates some real practical difficulties in converting the building and providing the secondary means of egress that's required. As Mr. Genova testified, also under C2 is obviously the benefit of providing this means of egress in order to comply with building codes is a significant one and far outweighs any detriments. And candidly, there are no detriments given the location here, which is why the HPC issued a report with no comment because it doesn't affect any neighboring property whatsoever. It's not visible anywhere unless you're in the parking deck. And let's face it, the parking deck is not the most appealing area in the town. So there's really no detriment, no detriments whatsoever. And I think the variances, can be approved under either of the C1 or C2 criteria. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we'll turn to Ms. Harris.
I am in favor of this application. I agree. The location of the stairs, I don't think will make the area any worse than it Originally, it is now. And, you know, it's a requirement for safety and for egress, so I am in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also in favor of the application. I think the applicant has demonstrated their willingness to, bring the building up to code, and that's great, providing another means of egress. And given the location of the new stairs, I think it will not be a detriment to the public, so I'm in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Church.
I am in favor of the application. There is no detriment that I can see to the master plan or any other area of concern in the downtown area, so I'd vote in favor of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Caulfield.
I'm in favor of it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'm also in favor of this application. Looking at the site, believe that what is proposed does not represent any detriment to the common good. It does represent an enhancement for purposes of safety. And we certainly do want to note the concern expressed by Ms. Talley that the stairwell is located in such a way that does not cause a safety hazard, since it does empty into a parking area. And I'm satisfied that the plans do protect the public good in that sense. So I'm also in favor of this and believe that we should go ahead and approve this.
So if there's a motion to approve the application, it should be subject to two conditions. The applicant's bound by representations made on its own behalf and by its attorney during the course of the hearing. And the applicant is also responsible for all inspection fees required under Montclair Code Section 202-27, as well as escrow fees incurred in connection with review of this matter.
All right, thank you. Would someone make a motion as represented by our attorney?
I make a motion to approve this application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Tremblay.
Have a wonderful night.
Yeah, same to you. Happy New Year.
You too.
Is Mr. Harrison been?
Mr. Harrison is here and ready.
Thank you.
The advantage of having it on TV, I can keep track of what's going on. Thank
All
you
right,
for
so, sorry, for the next application, once you announce it, I will get the panelists ready.
Okay. Next application that is of William Gately for property at 29 Macopin Avenue. This is an application for a variance to construct an addition to the house. The property is in the R1 one-family residential zone and is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 17 in Block 2802. A variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-45A2, which sets a maximum height of 2.5 stories. And the rear facade of the house will have 3 stories pursuant to Montclair Code Section 347-23D, which states that a dormer that is more than 50% of the width of the facade at its widest point shall be considered a full story. Our taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Okay. And are we ready with this? The applicant present?
William Gately and Carolyn Young are on. If you all would unmute and turn your cameras on.
And my wife, Molly, she's also here.
Hi.
Okay, who is going to testify?
Both Molly and William, and then Carolyn's also going to chime in as well.
Okay, so would all three of you raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
I do.
And can you give us your names and addresses, please?
Molly Gately, 29 Macopin, Montclair, New Jersey.
William Gately, 29 Macopin, Montclair, New Jersey.
Okay, and Carolyn, are you the architect?
Tommy, has she been added as a panelist?
She has been. She's a panelist. She doesn't appear to be muted, but I don't see a mic on. But she is on as a panelist.
Well, we need to be able to hear her.
Yes, we agree.
I see that her mic is active now. It's muted. Carolyn, it looks like you're still muted.
I'm trying.
I just unmuted you, I think.
Carolyn,
hear
are
me?
you present?
I'm here.
Okay, Carolyn, just can you give us your name and address, please?
Sure. You can see me now, hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Carolyn Young, architect. CA Young Architecture. Our address is 118 Washington Street in Morristown.
And Carolyn, you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
Yes.
And your license is in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Gately's can proceed. I don't know if they want you to go first, but
They're going to go first.
okay.
And I have the plans as well. If you'd like me to pull any of that up, just let me know.
I will when
Okay, great.
I speak.
So we moved here in 2017. At the time, we had our 6-month-old son. He is 5, and we now have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old in the house. We want to better utilize the square footage and the space that we have and also improve the safety. We have an attic floor, which currently has a narrow and steep staircase. It is a finished attic floor, so it's carpeted, drywalled, heated, and cooled. Like I said, it has a narrow and steep staircase. You can only walk in the center of the room without bumping your head. And in reality, it's only safe for an able-bodied adult who is less than 4 feet tall. We worked with Carolyn as our architect to improve our usability and our safety, as well as keep the look of the neighborhood. You can only see the roof line change from the backyard of the house or from our neighbor's backyard, and the roof line still allows for water runoff. In looking in our neighborhood, we have 2 neighbors that we can see from our house, one to the west of us, which is down Macopin Avenue, and one to the northwest of us across our backyard, that have extended their attic roof line to accommodate a bedroom. And then just to kind of add a little bit on top, we really love our neighborhood and our neighbors. They've become some of our closest friends and our greatest support system. So we really want to make what we have in this house work for us. And I'll pass it to Carolyn to walk through the plans.
Yes, if the drawings could come up, I think it would be good. So this house is a older home, classic Dutch colonial. It's very efficient in its layout right now. You see the existing first floor plan, living room, dining room, an office area, a kitchen. Your basic first floor rooms. The second floor of the house has a staircase that goes up to the second floor. Oh, thank you. Zooming in. Staircase that goes up to the second floor on the left side of the house. And on the second floor of the house, we have 3 bedrooms with 1 bathroom. And the narrow staircase that Molly is talking about is on the right side between these 2 front and back bedrooms, narrow staircase that goes up to the attic. It is extremely narrow. It's about 2 feet 2 inches wide, and it's extremely steep. Clearly not built as a staircase intended for habitable spaces to be used. As Molly said, the goal is to stay in the house and keep their family together and expand space as best as possible. We considered several things in this. One was that instead of keeping this steep staircase that accesses this attic, that we could in fact build a staircase that continues going up over the main staircase on the left side of the house. By doing that, we're able to create a staircase that has a series of steps to a landing, just like the first to second floor, and then more steps again up to the attic. That way the staircase will be wider and will be more gracious. So that was solving one of the problems that the house has by eliminating this narrow staircase on the right side. The second problem, of course, is that they do need more space. You know, we considered several options, you know, basically trying to expand the second floor of the house. But with the configuration of the existing 3 bedrooms and the existing 1 bath, that's actually a fairly difficult thing to do. We would end up reducing the size of a bedroom in order to get to go up on top of the kitchen area to the back of the house. We'd have to eliminate closet space and move that to another portion of the bedroom. And it also was not really appealing to the Gately's to think about creating a hallway to going to a bedroom. They were not in favor of that as an option. The other option, of course, would be to go over this sunroom on the right front side of the house. But again, to do that, you would really eat into this existing bedroom, making that much smaller, and you really wouldn't pick up enough space to achieve the goal of creating a bedroom and ideally having a bathroom as well. So all that led us to the idea of, once we were creating the new staircase going to the 3rd floor to the attic, that if we were to expand the roof line on the 3rd floor, we could achieve what their goals are, which would be to create a usable bedroom and get a small bathroom up there as well. So that's programmatically what our design process has been about. Architecturally, you see the 2 plans. On the lower part of the drawing, you see the staircase continuing up, which I've discussed. You see some closet space benefiting the existing bedroom, a linen closet, where the narrow staircase had been. You see the proposed plan, which, as I just said, will give them space so that they can have a bedroom up there. It's still, it's not tall space. It's still fairly low. It's going to be, you know, a cozy area, a small bathroom. And we are proposing a dormer to the front of the house as well as to the back of the house in order to get some reasonable closet space in this addition. And architecturally, I guess, can we go to the next page? Thank you. Thank you. So the drawings at the top of the page show you existing conditions, but I don't think I have to walk us through that. The left side elevation in this area shows you the existing staircase, which already projects cantilevers off the side of the house, which is what we're extending up to create the new staircase to the attic. You see the front elevation, which has a proposed dormer to the front, which is a double gable with 2 windows. We did have comments from the historic review, suggested that we reduce the size of these upper windows. I did do a revised drawing, thank you, which reduced the scale of these windows a bit. They were already smaller than the 2nd floor windows, but instead of being 3 panes of glass wide, I've taken them down to 2 and I've made them a bit shorter. So that's in response to the historic comments. And yes, thank you. And then the right side elevation You see the existing house, which has no changes to it in the main mass of the house. You see the side profile of the dormer I just described to the front, and you see the side profile of the dormer that's extending to the back. The back elevation, you see the primary shed dormer to the rear of the house, which will be where the bedroom space and the bathroom space are going to be. It is a shed roof. It is flat in what we term a flat roof, but all roofs have pitch to them so that the water can drain positively and then be received in a gutter on the back of the house and come down the side of the house as any other water that comes off of a roof would come down. So we have two issues here. One is that for this project, according to your zoning ordinance, we are exceeding the size of the attic, the 2.5-story attic requirement. According to your ordinance, your ordinance requires 40% of the attic to be less than 5 feet in height. The existing attic, unchanged, does comply with that requirement, but our proposed attic exceeds that. We only have 18.18% that is less than the 5 feet of height. So that is one variance required. And the second variance that we have here as well is that your ordinance has a dormer relationship, width of dormer relationship to building width. And the front dormer complies. It needs to be less than 50% of the maximum width of your building. So our front dormer is in compliance with that. The dormer to the rear is wider than 50% of the overall building width, and it's 68.76% of the building width. So there was consideration, as I said, for trying to add on in other ways. The Gately's goal was not to add first floor space. The first floor space is adequate for their family needs. Their needs are to get additional bedroom space, and after analysis of thinking about options, the third floor really presented itself, the attic presented itself as the best option to really satisfy their goals. While we're still looking at these elevations, I will also just say that if we had proposed going over the sunroom with an addition there, I believe we still would have been here tonight for a variance because of your ordinance and the way second floors relate to first floors with additions. So although it wouldn't have even afforded us enough space, it also would have changed the aesthetic and the architecture of this Dutch colonial home. So once again, we really, in the end, felt that what we're proposing here tonight, although we need variances to achieve this, that this was the best solution for this project.
Okay. Mr. McCulloch, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things, just for clarification now. With respect to the gutters, the area where the stairwell to the third floor is being extended does have a proposed roof line. Would there be gutters on that area as well?
It's a very small roof. It's really the same roof that we have at the second floor. I think we would have a gutter on it. It's just the best way to control the water.
Is there one currently now on the roof that exists?
Let me go check.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So the other thing I'm not sure I'm clear on now, in terms of the the third floor, we've talked a lot about the height on the third floor now being about 5 feet. What would be the new height of the proposed space?
If we go back to the floor plan drawing. Okay, there. Yeah, oh, great, thank you. It's noted on our drawing, we've got some key height locations there. So at the very back wall, it would be about 6'8".
About 6 feet.
And yeah, and then, it'll pitch up a bit and then it'll get to, 7.5 feet or so at the high point. And then, to the front, we've noted here knee walls at 30 inches high, 2'6". And the front dormer would be 5'7" high at that front plane.
And that's why you make reference to the fact that even though it's a relatively flat roof, there would be sufficient
That's correct. The roof still has pitch to
pitch
it.
for the water.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
And John, to answer your other question,
Yes.
the current roof for the stairwell does not have a gutter.
Does not. So how does that work for you now? I mean, because it's
Carolyn,
over a door, is it not?
It is over a door, but
It cantilevers. You see how the staircase actually cantilevers out from the building.
Mhm.
So the cantilever itself provides protection for that door.
we don't normally use that door when it's storming out per se. But yeah, a gutter is an option. I don't see it being a bad option for us.
And the walkway is up against the house, is it not?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Moore, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Ms. Harris, do you have any questions?
I do. In terms of the plan, I have to say the rear addition with the shed roof feels very bulky. And I'm wondering if you looked at the plan and tried to use it a little bit more efficiently so that you could make the dormer a little bit smaller. There's an area right below the stair on the plan labeled Nook. And I know that parts of that area have a very low knee wall, but it looks like there's some space, kind of some open space that maybe could have been used, for part of the bedroom or the closet. And you could basically move the space around so that it doesn't have to be so large, this third floor. Did you look at other options for this floor plan?
So if you see that dotted line where it says Nook, that dotted line represents a height of 5 feet.
Understood.
So, and as we said, the window to the front is only like 5'7". So, the dormer to the front is scaled lower so that it can have nice peak on the roof. So it doesn't provide a very useful space.
I mean, could that, if the closet was turned, could you move the bedroom further, further towards the front of the house so that the back dormer doesn't have to be as large as it is? Like between the nook and the walk-in closet, what is that space?
Where here? Yeah, okay, there. That's the only usable space on that side.
I guess my question is, what is it proposed to be used for?
Maybe a little desk area. The other thing that goes on here, which, is something we're thinking about as we're designing spaces, is that we also have a roof that we have to contend with holding up. And we have a ridge beam that comes down, the middle that I need to be able to put some structure and carry it down through the house. So orienting the bedroom in a different way would be difficult because it would deteriorate my structure. I think what you're asking is, could we eliminate the bathroom and put it where the
No.
closet is?
Yeah, no, not necessarily. I mean, I get why you place the bathroom there, you're stacking it, but it seems like the
Yes.
bedroom could get a little bit smaller or pushed, not even smaller, but kind of pushed towards the front a little bit so that you don't have such a big bulky dormer on the back side of the building. Because it looks like the closet and the space next to the closet could be reconfigured or combined to be a little bit more efficient. That was my only comment. or
Mr.
question.
Caulfield,
Thank you.
Mr. Caulfield, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, Chair.
Mr. Vieira, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The only question I have is regarding the building height, just to confirm, the building height will stay the same?
Yes. Yes, we are not changing the building height. Its current height is what we're working with, and that's, generating the heights that we're showing on the drawing. Yep.
And when you're looking from the street, you won't be able to see the addition?
No, you won't. The addition, well, you'll see the dormer that's proposed to the front, obviously.
Right.
But the shed dormer to the back, you will not see from the street. The Dutch gambrel has the gambrel roof line that projects about a foot from the plane of the house itself. So you do get the benefit of having that nice sort of broad eave of the roof line projecting in front of the shed. You can see it here on the back of the house, that there is a roof line that extends beyond the plane of the wall of the shed. So it's all at the back of the house.
Understood. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Tommy, I didn't get a Historic Preservation Commission review in my packet. Was there a written report from them?
I believe that there was, let me see.
Okay. Let me read it before, not try and ask questions while I'm reading it.
Sorry, I'm trying to make it a little bit bigger for you.
Okay, if you can, okay, so, okay, so you submitted the change plans in terms of the front dormers. Was there comment one directed to both dormers or just the front dormers?
It's my understanding that they are reviewing the fronts and fronts and visible sides of the houses that they're putting into these historic district, that they have no purview over the backs of the houses that aren't visible from the street.
When we were in that meeting, they specifically stated that it is not the purview of this meeting. It is not the agenda of the historic site when we talked about the back of the house.
And I will add too that there is a roof plan that was provided per the second recommended condition from our preservation consultant, which
Yes.
I have if you'd like to look at it.
Okay, and you testified that there will be slope on the roof even though it's a shed type roof, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then just so can you estimate how far away the house is on Nassau Road that, your lot backs into? I guess there are two lots that your lot really backs into. How far away they are from your house?
The one that we share the ravine with?
Correct.
Did you say like 6? You mean from like house to house? Or
Yeah.
like our house to the property line?
All right, no.
So there's our backyard. They've installed a nice basketball court in the ravine, and then there's their backyard and deck, and then there's the house. So probably
like somewhere between 50 and 75 yards.
I mean, your survey shows your house to your property line is 79 plus feet, and I assume it's a roughly comparable distance from their backyard, from your property line to their house.
yes, because the dotted lines that you see against that property line, that's their basketball court in the ravine. That's not their house.
I don't really want to think about at all, but if that pleases them to have the basketball court there, so be it. But I mean, there's a substantial distance between the two houses. You're not really
A set of
impacting
eyes
their.
on the property recently. John might be able to weigh in on estimating the distance.
Okay.
Bill, on the planners thing, that it shows the structures of the building pretty far
Right. No,
away.
I was there. I mean, I observed. I was just trying to get it on the record, as to that this is not really impacting the house, the properties along Nassau. Okay. Okay. We're going to open it up now to the public to see if there are any members of the public who either have questions, comments, testimony, anything whatsoever. So if you want to say something about the application, we're going to unmute everybody and speak up quickly so we know you want to participate, and we will hear what you have to say.
Everybody that is in attendance has been unmuted.
Okay, so is there anyone who has any comments, questions, testimony about this application? Last chance. Okay, is there anything the three of you want to say before we discuss and vote on the application?
No.
If you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I hope that you vote favorably on this. We've worked to keep it sensitive as possible, respectful of the neighborhood, and yet trying to achieve more space for the growing family for the Gately's. So thank you.
Since I only was partially watching, I'm not sure who we did before. So we'll start the discussion with Mr. Church.
Yes, I generally in favor of this application because it doesn't really show a detriment to the neighborhood. I am a little concerned about the width of the rear dormer as it stretches across the back of the house. If the architect and the homeowners could try to narrow that a bit, I believe it would be beneficial to the plan. With that in mind, I would approve the application because I don't see that it impacts the area in which the house is located adversely. I believe that their attempt here is to take a small space, which a lot of homes in that area have, and try to make it bigger to accommodate their growing family. So I would be generally in favor of the application, but I'd like to hear if the architect could find some way to try to minimize the width of the rear dormer. So I'd be in favor of the application as presented with that proviso. If it can't be done, it can't be done, but
Well, let's continue. Okay. Mr. Moore, do you have any, what is your vote on the application?
I'm generally in favor of the application, and also agree with our colleague, Mr. Church.
Okay, Ms. Harris?
I think I'm definitely in favor of the front dormer. I do believe with some tweaking of the plan, the back dormer could be made a little bit smaller. I'm not quite sure how we state that in a resolution, but I would like the architect to study that a little bit more.
Okay, Mr. Caulfield,
I'm in favor of this application and I'm okay with the size of the back. Thank you.
Mr. Vieira,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also in favor of this application. Thank you.
Mr. McCulloch,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also generally in favor of this application. I think that what's proposed in terms of the dormers to the front does in fact enhance the look of the property and is consistent with the neighborhood. The elevation of the roof line, I think, is appropriate and I think would not represent any hindrance to the houses on either side of this particular property. With respect to the dormer in the back, my initial reaction was also to be very hesitant about agreeing to exceed 50%. However, my sense is that the house is a very narrow house. And so what gives it dimension is its length and not its width. And so I think that what's being proposed in terms of having the dormer to extend is, for the most part, the full width of the facade is in order to have appropriate space on that third floor. So I'm generally in favor of this proposal.
I'm also in favor. The applicant has testified that they've met the conditions of the Historic Preservation Commission. And, I don't think this will have a substantial detriment to the public good or substantial impairment to the zone plan. I guess since some of us think we should shrink it a little, I don't know, should we have further discussion with the applicant or that, or do we want to discuss we need to impose some meaningful condition if we want to do that, and I don't have any clever ideas as to how best to do that.
Yeah, I would like to hear from the applicants and their architect about possibly making that rear dormer a little bit narrower.
Okay, so Ms. Young, can you discuss the feasibility of reducing the width of the rear dormer with some amount?
Yeah, so I'd be comfortable with taking a foot off each side of it. I think keeping it centered would be most desirable, not shifting it to one side or the other. So, our drawing has it indicated at 25 feet, 10.5 inches. So if I take 2 feet off of that to 23 feet, 10.5 inches, I'll be able to, is my mic turned on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I just had a text saying my mic wasn't turned on. Anyway, peeling a foot off of each side, I think would definitely give it a little more roof, around the perimeter of it. And I could reorient the bedroom so the bed wall is the other way and slide the bathroom in a bit.
In doing that, Carolyn, because one thing I don't know if it wasn't clear to me, but the nook and the closet are in the front of the house, where we're not doing anything to the pitch line, and it's not great space. So we would just be moving. If we shifted to the front of the house, we would just be moving back into the situation where you can only walk in the center of the bedroom, and we're kind of
I'm not proposing right. Shifting it to the front of the house.
Right. So, but then to Carolyn, to your recommendation, if you take a foot off of each side, do we then get ourselves into some other type of inefficiency? Because right now, the way that that bathroom is it sits exactly above the bathroom that's on the second floor.
Yes, that is true. Yes,
Also
it
the
is
third floor
stacking.
wall.
It is, we didn't draw the layout of the bathroom in, but it's stacking directly above the bathroom. It complicates it to pull that in.
And yeah,
The third floor walls line up exactly with the second floor walls.
Correct.
The proposed third floor.
so what we would have is if we made the dormer smaller, then we would have an indent in that would go kind of across the bed right now, because this lines up with the current wall line that's on that attic area.
Well, the indent would be handled with roof. That's what Ms. Harris is, trying to achieve, that there would be more roof coming down by narrowing the dormer. But yes, I mean, to propose to take a foot off each side does complicates the design a little bit.
But just knowing my own house, having the bathroom fixtures not perfectly one to one another, I mean, that's not atypical in a house, is it?
No, not at all. It would be, it would be achievable.
Okay. Members of the board who, is doing 1 foot on each side, meet your concerns?
Yeah, I think that would help to kind of, reduce some of the bulk, the visual bulk on this dormer for sure.
I would agree.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Maybe.
I'm really seeking to understand what is the concern with the bulk? Like, what does that mean, considering it's not visible from the street and it matches up with the roof? I'm just not understanding that concern at all.
Okay, so several years ago, the governing body changed the ordinances because of concerns of oversized houses being built, and that's when the 2.5-story dormer 50% requirement. And what we're trying to do and have done, and quite honestly, if you were proposing this on the front of the house, we wouldn't be approving it at all. And the fact you're putting it on the rear, I mean, that is a positive consideration, but we still have to look at what the intent of the ordinance was, to not have large, using Ms. Harris's words, bulky structures. And by having, so we're allowing you to exceed by a, fairly significant amount, the 50% for the dormers, but to not, it creates a much better visual impression, even if it's set back in just a foot. It will not look as bulky. And yes, there are not a lot of people, and I made that point when I, asked about the houses on Nassau and their distance from yours, not much of an impact, but we still have to be guided by what the ordinance is. We're recognizing it is not really impacting your neighbors, and hence we're willing to grant a significant variance, but we're, we want to, not send a message it's okay to build out a full 3rd story to the full extent of what exists below. And by setting it back, it'll, I think, end up being much more visually attractive and much more consistent with what the goals of the governing body were when they passed the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Clear background.
Thank you.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion?
Can I just be sure that the Gately's are agreeing to what I've proposed?
Do we have to do that now? Because I'm not.
Well, they're voting on it, and they're
Yeah.
voting, they're going to make a proposal to whether they're voting on it with this reduction or not. So we need to know what we are presenting to them.
Yeah. At this point in time, I'm not, because I think it was John who came out to see our house, and I believe, Bill, you came out to see our house as well, and you mentioned on the narrowness of it. So I don't know if the other voting members have seen that our house is not large by any means. And so I understand the ordinances and the guidelines that are put in place, but I think it'll look weird that we'll have this dormer that won't line up with the walls. Because then we'll have like, it'll, the back of it's gonna go in on the second level and then in on the third level, like a wedding cake.
Okay, so I think you would rather than stay with the dormer as proposed at the 25 feet, 10 and a half inches.
I mean,
What, let me just get some clarification. Our options here are
Okay,
to.
let me just stop. Okay, so here's where we are right now. The application, as I understand it, what the applicant just said is they would request a vote on the application as submitted. Now, the board can impose conditions if they choose to do so. So why don't we see where a motion goes and where the final action takes place? But just so you understand, the board doesn't need to get your consent to impose a condition. You've indicated that you really don't want to have that condition imposed, but that's ultimately up to the board.
And I, just because of the weird things that happen when boards don't approve motions, well, okay, someone should make a motion. Why don't I not do that as to, I mean, I think the choices are to deny the application as submitted, approve the application as submitted, approve the application with the 1 foot reduction on, well, 2 foot reduction in the width of the dormer, leaving it to them how they want to accomplish that. But someone needs to make one of those 3 motions.
I make a motion to approve the application as presented.
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on that.
Yes, I will call roll. Mr. Church,
No.
Mr. McCullough,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
No,
Ms. Harris,
No.
Mr. Caulfield,
Yes.
Mr. Vieira,
Yes.
Okay, I counted 4 yeses on that.
that's correct.
Okay, so the application is approved by a vote of 4 to 3.
Great. Wonderful, thank you.
Have a good night.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Have a good night.
the next application is that of Melissa Elbaum for property at 58 Stonebridge Road. This is an application for a variance to construct an addition to a single-family home. Property is in the RO Mountainside Zone District. The property is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 19 and Block 3403. A variance is requested from Montclair Code Section 347-33, which requires a minimum front yard setback of 64.7 feet and a setback of 44.93 feet is proposed. Are taxes paid and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Okay, are the applicants present?
Yes. Yes.
And is Mr. Klein present?
He is a panelist. Mr. Klein, looks like your mic is not active. Still not seeing an active mic. There we go.
Is that better?
Yep, you're
Okay.
unmuted now.
Great. Okay, so is your Melissa Elbaum, you're present, I don't see you. Is there somebody else with you also?
It's my husband.
Okay, are you gonna both testify or just you or just him? In addition to Mr. Klein?
We may both.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask first that the applicants raise their right hands. Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes.
Yes.
State your names and addresses, please.
Melissa Elbaum, 58 Stonebridge Road, Montclair, 07042.
Okay, on, how the hell do I do that? Don't leave it.
Lawrence Elbaum, 58 Stonebridge Road, Montclair, 07042.
Okay, I'm just going to swear in Mr. Klein now also. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
And you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, Mr. Klein, is that true?
Yes, I am.
And your license is in good standing?
Yes.
Okay, so the applicants can proceed.
And let
I'll
me know
give you the
if you'd
floor.
like any of the plans pulled up. Sorry, Ms. Elbaum, did you ask for something to be pulled up? I didn't hear you.
I was just giving the floor to our architect, to Francis. He can.
Okay, Mr. Klein, you're up.
Thank you very much. Melissa and Lawrence are here, and my associate architect, Gisela Bazzelli, is also here. Melissa and Lawrence, they have 2 school-age children, and our proposal is to add a bedroom on the second floor so that the whole family can have bedrooms on the second floor. The parents want their children to be with them. We are maintaining the front wall of the house, and we are replacing a cross gable dormer, which doesn't have headroom and is an attic, with a shed dormer to get the headroom, to get the bedroom in the front. It's with a minimum 7'6" headroom at the front of the bedroom. This involves minimal changes. The ridge, we'd like to raise it 18 inches, but we're way under the height limit. The height limit for this zone is 35 feet, and we're going to raise it to 23.3. So we're like 11 foot 9 inches, way under. And the porch gets extended a little bit to the left and right, but because the street is curved, it actually is better because the west side goes back further away from the street by 6 inches, and the right side, the east side, comes forward by less than 6 inches. So there's minimal changes to the front yard setback. And in terms of planning, it's a wonderful street. It's mixed, it's varied. It's got all kinds of architectural styles. It's got French Chateau, it's got English Tudor, it's got Federal, it's got Georgian, it's got Capes. And almost all of them are 2.5 stories with full second floors. The curve shows that number 66, which is just to the west, has a 45-foot setback. And I feel this addition would fit the street, and it's in conformity with the zone plan. And if you find this project allowable, we really feel it would be an attractive and fitting addition to the neighborhood, as well as a great benefit to this family.
And Mr. McCulloch, do you have any questions?
No questions at this moment, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
No.
Mr. Moore, do you have any questions?
Questions?
Ms. Harris, do you have any questions?
Yes. How does the proposed porch and addition relate to the existing porch that's there now? In terms of the depth and the size?
It's simpler. It has square columns as opposed to Tuscan columns at the advice of the Historical Preservation Commission. It extends 5 feet to the left, 5 feet to the right, so that we can see the double windows on the second floor. The 2 pairs of windows that are centered over the ones below. That's a bathroom on the left and a closet on the right to make that bedroom a better bedroom. The bedroom windows are the 3 centered in the middle.
And the existing porch on this house? How far does it extend from the house?
We're not changing that. We're not changing the front wall. The plane is the same.
So the plane of this dormer addition and this new porch is at the same location as the existing porch that,
Exactly. We're just going up.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Caulfield, do you have any questions?
Yeah, a lot of stuff's happening on this property, I see. But you're here for the going up on the dormer, is that correct?
Excuse me? Yeah, that's the variances, the front yard setback. Yes, Mr. Caulfield.
Okay, it's more than that. The plan would, I mean, it's a lot of things happening, a lot of moving parts here. Okay, thank you.
Right, but they're all in conformance.
Thanks, Chair.
Mr. Vieira, do you have any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, Tommy, can you, this also was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission?
Yes, and this is the report from Conley and Hickey. It'll blow up a little bit.
Okay, and my understanding is you've revised the plans to comply with all of these conditions?
We revised the plan, Mr. Harrison. We used pilasters, and number two, the pilasters and engaged column at the wall. That we did. Number three, we did. The face of the dormer wall shall align with the face of the neck of the columns below. We did that too. We didn't do four. Its full entablature is very classical and expensive. We have an apron roof. It's more modest. And what we did for the alignment was to center the second floor windows, which I was talking with Mrs. Harris about. We centered them on the center line of the two windows below, which we're not changing. So the spirit of what they asked for, we did.
And just let me do one other technical thing so I mean, you did a calculation on the three properties on either side. My understanding, the ordinance requires you to do two properties, which knocks out the real outlier, the one that's 106 feet back, but you still are not meeting this. I mean, the basic setback's 50 feet, and doing the two adjacent on each side, you end up with a 58.28. So you need the variance in any event. It's just not as big of a variance. But I'm trying to, let's start off with, so the current house is setback at its closest point 44.93 feet from the front property line. Is that correct?
The current house, I think it's 45.4.
45, yeah. And
45.
so you're moving it, I guess it's less than a foot closer.
Yeah, less than 6 inches.
And the reason you're moving it slightly closer is what?
Because the block Stonebridge Road, it's not a circle, it's like a teardrop. So if you look at all the line segments and the arcs, the properties have at the front edge of the teardrop are closer to the street than the ones on the sides, if you will. So it's not exactly parallel. We're dealing with arcs and segments of arcs. For that reason, on the west side, it's actually better when we're finished than when we started. We go from 46.9 to 47.2, so it's actually further away.
For the porch.
Yeah, for the porch.
Okay, and then the garage is also closer than, and that you're moving closer than the current corner of the house, is that correct?
That one's fine. That's 55.25 and 50.25.
Okay, but the required setback, I mean, the basic setback is 50 feet, but then you have to meet the average of the houses on either side, which is 58.28 feet. So you need a variance for that as well, correct?
We didn't think so. That seems to conform, but
Well, you calculate the setback, I mean, you calculated as 61 feet. I think you'd concluded too many properties and get it down to 58, but you're still under 58, and I don't think I'm missing something under the ordinance.
no, I'm sure your math is right.
So I guess, okay, so you're reconfiguring the garage so basically you can pull straight in rather than going around into the current garage entrance. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the Elbaums have said it's difficult to get the cars into the garage at the moment.
Okay, and I understand that, but I guess the stairs you're showing at the back of the garage that's new, or is that existing?
That's new. That's to get up to the mechanical area where the air conditioning units, fans on top of the garage, so above in the attic above the garage.
Okay, and did you look at alternatives which would enable the garage to meet the setback requirement?
This seemed to be the one which had the least disturbance of site work. We're keeping a lot of the paving, we're keeping the trees. We looked at alternates. This is the one that's the kindest and gentlest to the landscape.
Okay, and then let me get another sheet of your plans. Okay, I guess I'm trying to understand what you're doing in terms of the area of the driveway that currently where you pull in to the garage. What of that is, what are you doing with that area of the driveway? It's now going to be along the side of the garage.
The shaded area, Gisela, maybe I'm going to ask you to explain the shaded areas, please.
All right, we're gonna have to swear her in. Giselle, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
Giselle, what are your qualifications?
I'm an architect.
Okay, licensed in the state of New Jersey?
No, I'm not licensed.
So you're an architect where?
I'm an architectural designer. I'm not a
Okay,
licensed architect.
so you're not an architect, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay, what are you exactly?
And a designer. Just so.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
And I think the question is purely on what's happening with the driveway area, which I'm more interested in factual than expert testimony.
Well, we're not changing the existing curve line. So what we're doing is that when we spoke with the plan reviewer, he said that they didn't want the guest parking to be in front. So what we did is that we did a very subtle a curve so that the two cars could pull out, and that would just be blended into the existing driveway. And then the setback would be used for like guest parking on the side yard.
So, the
curb is not changing. The driveway cut is not changing. You see how there's a white, there's a pattern that says existing driveway, and then there's a shaded area, and that indicates the new asphalt.
Right, but I'm asking you seem to be keeping all of the existing asphalt along the side property line there.
Well, there's
trying to
a
understand.
setback that we're required to have. And since it's already paved, what they are intending to do is use that for their additional parking on the pavement. Like they used to have. If you go back to the demo, let's see, the demo plan, right? D2.
What sheet? What sheet of
D2.
PDF is that?
D2.
What page number?
That would be right after. If you're scrolling it, go to the next 2 pages.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so the you see that what's crosshatch is the proposed garage, right?
Correct. Yes.
And so priorly, where you see that there's a heavier hatch is where they used to have guest parking, what they currently have, right? So when we talked to the plan examiner, he said, well, we don't really want you to have this guest parking on front of the wall of the building. We want you to put it on the side yard. So that's the reason why we kept the pavement of the existing driveway, so that it would swap the spaces. So the person could park adjacent to the new garage. No. People
Okay.
visiting the homes.
But
you see how there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bushes, right? And then there's a big tree, and then there's a trapezoid that is hatched, right? That's an existing parking space for guests. There's the bay window, right? See it there. Big tree in front. On the front wall, there's 2 windows on the existing garage. And then on the side yard is the entrance to the garage, right? So right in front of it, right there, there's an area that's calling out existing asphalt. Let me zoom in mine so I can see it. There's a note on it. It says existing asphalt guest parking space to be removed as a whole and replaced with pavement and walking and planting area. So when we spoke with the plan examiner, he wanted that parking to disappear. But obviously the owners still want to be able to have parking for their guests. So we kept it on the other side, and that was the compromise that he said it would be acceptable.
But what? Okay. What is the distance between the wall of the new garage?
I didn't catch what you said.
And
you broke out when you were talking.
Mr. Harrison, looks like you've lost connection. Looks like you're back now.
What is the distance between the wall of the new garage and the property line?
To the side wall of the garage is 12 feet, 3.5 inches. So it'd be sufficient enough room for guest parking. And also for them to lead toward the yard. There's a gateway to the yard in that direction.
Okay, so let me explain my difficulty here. And I mean, there's a fair amount of room in the driveway in front of the garage for guests to park, and there's street parking on Stonebridge Road. And the normal requirement is for parking areas to be set back 4 feet from property lines. And I understand this is an existing condition with the pavement, but you're removing some other pavement, a typical parking space would be 9 feet wide, and I'm struggling with why we should, while you're creating a new encroachment on the front yard, why we should continue to allow what was originally constructed for ease of access into the garage when it entered on from the side, to keep that area all paved when normally we wouldn't allow pavement this close to the property line is. And having a space for one car on the side of the garage when you can park cars behind the garage, and presumably the owners aren't going out, and there's street parking, all along the frontage on Stonebridge is, I'm trying to understand why that pavement needs to remain, or all of that pavement needs to remain.
I mean, we don't exceed the drainage, so we just didn't move it because it's already there. I understand what you're objecting to, but.
I mean, Bill, if they just.
Hey, Gisela, can I speak up?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand and these are all new words for me. So please be patient with me. I'm trying to understand which pavement is, and I didn't hear an objection. I heard struggling to understand, which is short of an objection. So I'm struggling to understand what side of the garage we're talking about here.
The side yard.
Where the basketball hoop is.
The left?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the issue?
The issue
we
is
could try to address
normally
it.
the ordinance was not allow the driveway to be right next to the property line. And it was, I don't know what happened when they built the house, and what the ordinances were then, but, I'm questioning whether in return for getting a new encroachment on the front yard, we should get a trade-off in terms of reducing that pavement right next to your neighbor's property.
Well, he wants this to be landscaped right here.
Not, it doesn't have to completely go away, right? We just need a buffer at the property line.
I mean, right now there's a bunch of arborvitaes our neighbor planted, and a fence. It looks pretty lush between our driveway and his, which actually is also, he has pavement up to that property line as well. Just in between on the line where the fence is, there's maybe a foot or 2 feet of landscaping. So it's actually quite private as it stands.
Yeah, right in the back there's a bluestone path that goes to the backyard and the gate, which is obviously landscaped. So there's a significant amount of landscaping in the area. You could see, again, this is, I'm like looking at hieroglyphics here. This is
That's a birch river tree.
yeah, there's presently a basketball hoop, and then behind that there's a big tree, and there's a path that goes into the backyard. It's a significant amount of landscaping. And then we have the landscaping that our neighbor has provided as well by the fence.
Would it help if we off the property, we came in with like some planters of some sort, maybe a couple of feet, maybe 2 feet? Because that would still allow them to park a car if they wanted, for gas. I mean, we have 12'3", so we could put a little buffer there if that would satisfy the board.
Yeah, I think that might make a lot of sense, Mr. Harrison.
So, I'm trying to, you know, I mean, for a parking space, I mean, you would need a 9-foot width. If the remainder of that area between that and the property line, the pavement was removed and landscaping, that would, I think,
I
end
mean,
up
I,
making it more attractive, give you room to park one car there and, you still have your path to the back and.
I think we're willing, that sounds like a great idea. We're happy to do that.
would that be okay with you, Melissa and Lawrence?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea,
Yes.
actually.
We're going to now open this up to members of the public. So if you have questions of the applicant or the architect, or if you have comments on the application testimony, you want to say anything about the application, this is your opportunity. We're going to unmute you. And if you have something to say, this is your opportunity.
We have nobody currently on the attendee list, so there's nobody to unmute.
Okay. We need to say it just so.
Right.
Just in the odd chance, someone got logged off temporarily and wants to log back on, but okay. So since there are no participants now, is there anything further any of you want to say before we discuss and vote on the application?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of the architect?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Klein, just going back to the design of the pillars on the second floor in the front. I know that in your presentation, you talked about the variety of architectural styles that permeate, that neighborhood generally speaking. You said that there's certainly quite a wide variety. What is the style when you have 8 pillars in the front? And I'm just curious in terms of, what was the reaction of the historical commission to that concept in terms of the design at the front?
Mr. McCullough, they were, especially the consultant, was very interested in the classicism. So these pilasters are a classical touch, and the square columns on the first floor are simplified classical. Not too fancy, but it provides a modest visual interest, and it makes the house a little bit more classical in style.
And there's no concern on your part that having them on that second floor would make the house appear more imposing. I mean, a lot of the housing in that area is certainly quite stylish, and not that this design is not stylish as well, because it certainly is. But in many ways, I would say a lot of the properties are understated. And I'm just kind of wondering if these pillars might overstate the property as opposed to maintaining sort of the understatement that currently does exist.
There's a mix. There's French Chateau, there's English Tudor, there's like you find at Fordham University, like collegiate Gothic down on the street. Yes, you're right. There are some that are simpler, but there are some that are a lot more complicated. And in the middle are Federal and Georgian styles, which have fan lights over the doors. And the one directly to the west has a big 2-story portico with giant classical columns and a little railing around the top. So we thought this was a modest touch to blend in with the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other board members with questions? Is there anything the applicant or the engineer, the architect or his assistant want to say before we discuss and vote on the application?
This is Lawrence. I just wanted to thank everyone for the due process here. for the late hour, for the questions, and for me personally, the continuing legal education. I needed one ethics credit, and I think I got it. So I really appreciate that.
Okay, we'll start discussion with Mr. Moore.
I'm in favor of the application.
Ms. Harris,
I'm in favor of this application.
Mr. Caulfield,
Lawrence, usually this board goes to 1 o'clock in the morning, so, you know, this is kind of early for us. I'm in favor of this application, and good luck.
Mr. Vieira,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also in favor of the application. Just one question. Can we add that comment that you made regarding the buffer as a condition?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Church,
I'm in favor of the application with the addition of the buffer in the driveway, add that buffer. I'm in favor of the application.
Mr. McCulloch,
I'm also in favor with the conditions stated by Mr. Vieira.
okay. I'm in favor of the application. I think, you know, they're only slightly encroaching further on the required front yard setback. I think, you know, in the area of the porch and in the reconfigured garage, they are not as close as the porch is to the front yard. I think they have, due to the arc of the road, creates an atypical condition for them that they're trying to accommodate. I recognize having the garage facing the entrance, facing the road will make it much easier for them. I don't think granting the variance will result in a substantial detriment to the public good or a substantial impairment to the zone plan. If we impose a condition that they provide a 3-foot vegetated buffer to the, I guess westerly would be the best way to describe that property line, and remove any pavement necessary to accomplish that. Someone want to make them, and yes, and this is an early night for us, and good luck getting an ethics credit with doing this, but I'll attest to it if you want to give it a try.
You'd get better public attendance if you said this qualified for ethics credit. That's how you get all the lawyers to show up.
Yeah, I know. As being a lawyer, if I could get my, you know, as the extra credits you get for being the teacher in the course, I'd be even better. Okay, someone on the board want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve this application with the restriction of the added buffer.
Is there a second?
Second, Caulfield.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and any abstentions? Okay, go build your improvements. And do we have a motion to adjourn? We're back here in 2 weeks, yes?
Second. Yes.
Okay.
Happy New Year, everyone, and have a great evening.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year, everyone.
Here.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Bye.
Sean. Bye-bye.
Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.